Hi everyone, welcome to A Muggle's Guide to Hogwarts, where we are exploring the Harry Potter series with the ultimate Muggle, someone who has never seen the books. I did that last time too.
Guys, I've seen books.
Someone who has never read the books, never seen the movies, and never wanted to until I asked her very politely to do it on this podcast. That's Becki, here she is.
Hi, I am Becki, here I am.
Yep, she's here all the time, pretty much every time we record this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, you could try to do it without me. What would you do?
I would just mimic your voice.
Oh, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, me neither.
Please don't do that.
Welcome, everyone. So last time we made predictions for chapters 4, 5, and 6 of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Today we're going to be talking about those predictions, go through the chapters, see what was right, what was wrong, and then at the end of this, Becki's going to make her predictions for the next 3 chapters of the book. Mm-hmm. A lot happened in these chapters, huh?
They were huge chapters. They were very long, too.
Yeah, they were super long.
They were super long.
Well, comparatively, at least, to like the first 2 books, which nothing was long in the first 2 books.
No, yeah, they covered a lot of ground.
So chapter 4 was called The Leaky Cauldron.
Yeah.
And going through your predictions, I think you were pretty, right about not too much happened in this chapter.
Yeah, I think, he was definitely living it up at the Leaky Cauldron. That was cool. But yeah, I guess not that much happened. Hermione and Ron came and showed up for like longer than I thought. Like conveniently, they were all staying at the Leaky Cauldron, right?
So nice.
Which has never happened before.
Even though they have their own home.
Right.
They have a wonderful wizard home called the Burrow. So they show up on the last day. They're only staying there one day. Is that right?
Yeah, they were like staying there. The way it felt to me was like, oh, we're staying here so we can get to the train station really easily tomorrow. Like, like the dads that like book hotels at near airport, so you can just get there really quickly.
Well, and we learn a little bit later on in this chapter kind of why exactly that's happening. But yeah, it is kind of like at first you're like, why aren't they just like going home? What's going on?
This
they
has
have
never
flu
happened
powder. What's
before.
happening? Yeah,
and they're all staying there. But I think they needed a little extended time there because they had to get Crookshank the cat.
There was a couple things that had to happen, but yeah, the cat was important. So Harry, first off, is just living it up in Diagon Alley like a 13-year-old wizard boy would want to. He goes and just looks at all the shops. He's looking at a new racing broom called the Firebolt. And he's just like, that's the best broom I've ever seen, but it's also like 2 kajillion
Isn't he rich,
galleons.
though?
He is pretty rich. Like, his parents left him a fortune.
Yeah, but I guess it probably has to last a long time.
He's remarkably responsible with his money.
Yeah, good for him.
Being a 13-year-old. Yeah. But he gets free ice cream every day.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just crushing it. Eventually, he goes in to buy his books. Mm-hmm. And then we learn about what the Monster Book of Monsters is. And it's a book that is required by the new class he's taking called the Care of Magical Creatures class. And every student is required to have it. And the book owner, I forget the name of the book owner, maybe they don't say it, but he's really angry because these books are really hard to hold and he's never going to order them again. And
it reminded me of like at the grocery store when I was little. Did you ever like really want to go look at the lobster tanks?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
I mean, like I don't now. It's like really sad to me. But when I was little, I'd be like, oh, can we go look at the lobster tanks? And they're all there with like their claws.
Yeah,
they're alive.
I know, it's sad. It's sad.
But that's what it reminded me of. Like there was like a case of them, like kind of like an aquarium-sized tank of these books. And he has to like reach in and get one and it's thrashing around.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny scene to picture.
Yeah. My favorite though, the thing I think that made me giggle the most in this chapter was the Invisible Book of Invisibility. And they were talking about how like they got a bunch of copies in but never sold any because they couldn't find them anymore.
So then Hermione and Ron show up and they are talking about how Hermione got like a big birthday bonus from, or like her parents gave her some money for a birthday gift. And so she was like, Harry, you have an owl. Ron, you have a rat. I want to go buy an owl too, so I have a pet. And Ron's like, yeah, and Scabbers looks really sick or something. He's like not looking well.
But didn't she used to have a pet? Like, I thought you had to have an owl, a cat, or
No,
a rat.
it's not required.
It's not required?
No. There's the school has like school owls. So if you need to send mail, you can send them through the school owls.
I thought in the first book it was like, okay, and now you pick out your pet and you have to choose one of these. And I thought that she had one already.
No, it's entirely optional if you have one or not.
Okay.
So
I'm glad she's getting one.
Yeah, she never had one. She really wants an owl. And Ron's like, Scabbers is looking really sick. So why don't we go to the pet shop? So they go in. The pet shop owner's like, this rat should be dead.
Right, because he's a regular rat, not a magical
He's like, yeah, Ron's like, he doesn't show any magical powers. And they're like, and then the shop owner's like, they only live through, what'd you say?
I said kind of like
Ron. Oh, man.
His wand is always broken. He's always messing stuff up.
He got a new one.
Okay, but we haven't seen him use it yet.
It's true.
Okay, sorry. Carry on.
Wow, that was a deep cut. Anyway, so she's like, the rat should be dead, but here, let me give you some rat tonic. And then all of a sudden, a cat jumps on Scabbers, trying to get Scabbers maybe, and Hermione ends up buying it. So she doesn't get an owl, which I'm confused. Owls just seem like the best option.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you always get an owl? They bring you your mail.
Yeah, I would choose an owl.
What would a cat do?
I don't know. She likes cats though. Remember when she was a cat for like half of the last book?
Do you think that's maybe she has that association?
She's like, oh, good.
I've been a cat, so.
She didn't particularly like being a cat though.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would.
I think cats probably like being cats.
She just has this connection with cats now.
All right. Once again,
anyway, she gets this cat called Crookshanks, and they head back to the Leaky Cauldron, and that's when we learn about why all this stuff has kind of been happening to Harry in the way it's been happening, right? So we learn that this Sirius Black character escaped from Azkaban, and I guess we learned that in the previous chapters on the night bus too. But we now know that he is after Harry because Harry overhears a conversation between Mr. and Mrs. Weasley where Mr. Weasley reveals that the Minister of Magic, Cornelius Fudge, had gone to Azkaban earlier the same day that Sirius Black escaped. And he heard Sirius Black saying, he's at Hogwarts, blah, 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 blah. So they're making the connection that Sirius Black is out to kill Harry because Sirius Black was a supporter of Voldemort. And that's why all of this stuff has been happening to Harry. That's why he's like been overly protected. That's why Cornelius Fudge showed up outside of the night bus. That's why he's been staying in this room and only been able to visit Diagon Alley. And I think that's probably why the Weasleys are sleeping there that night, and then that's why the cars they like have ministry cars
they have, like,
taking
special
them.
cars to take them to the.
So it's all this like big protection detail for Harry.
Sneaky.
Yeah. And then Harry's like, I don't care. Why should I care?
Right.
I don't care if someone's trying to kill me. Whatever.
He's like, it's happened before. It'll happen again.
He knows what his life's about now.
Yeah.
But Mr. Weasley wants to tell Harry, and Mrs. Weasley is like, no, don't tell Harry. He's better off not knowing because he doesn't want to, let's not have him worry about it all the time.
Would you want to know if someone was out to kill you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would want to know.
What if it wouldn't change the outcome? What if there's nothing you could do about it?
About what? About this person wanting to kill me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd still want to know.
Or about being like killed.
If I can't change the outcome whether I'm killed or not, maybe I don't want to know.
Right, because then you could just like enjoy the last week of your life or something.
But if someone is just out to kill me,
right,
and my fate isn't written in stone, I would want to know because then I would like be a little bit more aware of what I was doing.
Yeah. So you agree with Mr. Weasley?
Yeah, I do. I do. But I also understand Mrs. Weasley's viewpoint of like, he's 13 years old.
Right.
He's going to Hogwarts, which is supposedly the safest place on the planet. But for the past 2 years, it hasn't been that safe.
Yeah, maybe if a killer or a madman is out to kill a boy who he thinks is at Hogwarts, maybe don't send that boy to Hogwarts. Like, maybe don't just put him in the exact place you know that he's going to look for him.
Yeah. And like from the very beginning of Harry Potter, of the series, we learn that Hogwarts is the safest place.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the past 2 years, Voldemort has shown up
Right.
twice in
Yeah.
the school.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not the safest place.
I don't know.
And that was pretty much that chapter.
Right.
Okay, now we come to chapter 5.
The Dementor.
The Dementors.
Very spooky. Can
Yeah.
I say one other thing? I don't remember if it was from the last chapter or this chapter.
Go ahead.
The innkeeper or bartender or whoever at the Leaky Cauldron.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that I got really upset because his name is Tom something?
Yeah. Tom. I don't know what his last name is. Oh, yeah, but
But that was
because of Tom Marvolo Riddle.
Tom Marvolo Riddle. I was just really upset that they had two Toms back to back.
This is what I guarantee happened. J.K. Rowling wrote the character Tom, the bartender, before she figured out that she was going to call Voldemort Tom. And that just happened. And she called Voldemort Tom because she rearranged the letters in Voldemort's name.
And it just had to
And
be
it
Tom.
had to be Tom.
But they're like right next. Like it said, so we started the chapter. It is at the beginning of the Dementor. It says, Tom woke Harry the next morning. And I was like, Tom, what's he doing there? And you were like, he's like the innkeeper. And I was like, since when?
They talked about Tom in the previous chapter.
I still think that's quite silly. You can't have two Toms when one's a really, really big.
Two Toms in one book. No way. No
character.
way. You can't. Books can't have the same name for multiple characters.
Yeah. That's
Jesus.
true.
All right. I need to mention something too, which I forgot to do at the beginning of this podcast, is I have to apologize because I totally forgot to put one really, really important thing in the information that I gave you when you were making predictions. Yeah. So one important thing that I forgot to add in the information was that they go to divination class, which is pretty huge.
Yeah. I
even put in like Talons and Talons and Tea Leaves is the name of the chapter. And I put the Grim and the Tea Leaves as the interesting tidbit or curio. And I forgot to mention that they actually attend a class called Divination, which is a new class.
I would have changed
my
predictions a little bit. But
I'm
it's
sorry.
okay. It's
I'm
okay.
sorry. That's my fault.
Because I was like, and then they have to read Tea Leaves at some point. Like, I was just like, I don't know where this fits into this Talons, this class about magical creatures. I thought maybe Hermione like made them do it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'm sorry. Okay, we got to get into the Dementor because it's
chapter 5, the Dementor.
Big chapter.
This is a big one. Mm-hmm. So this is when they go to platform 9 3/4 and they get on the Hogwarts Express.
Yeah, but they're kind of late.
This whole chapter basically takes place on the Hogwarts Express.
Yeah, and I think I predicted last time that I was like, and nothing really happens on the train. They just
they get there.
Just like are there, and then they're at Hogwarts. And I was like, wow, I could not have been more wrong.
Yeah. A lot happens on the train.
Yeah, this is like the most eventful train ride yet.
First off, before they get on the train, Mr. Weasley does tell Harry. He brings him aside and he tells Harry that Sirius Black is out to kill him. And Harry's like, I already know. I heard you guys talking. And I'm not worried about it. Mm-hmm. But then Mr. Weasley makes him promise not to go looking for Black. And Harry's like, why would I go looking for someone that wants to kill me?
Well, have you read the last two books?
Yeah. Harry, are you aware of who you are and what you do all the time? And then they get on the train and they get into a compartment in the very back of the train with somebody already in it, an adult.
Yeah, who's sleeping.
He's sleeping.
Yeah, and they're just like, I guess we'll just hang out with this old guy who's sleeping.
Who sleeps a lot.
Yeah.
He sleeps like the entire fucking train ride.
I get it. I sleep the entire plane rides most of the time.
It seems to me
I fly.
like that. I don't. Yeah. So this is something I can't sleep on planes. I'm so bad at it.
I slept through a 9-hour plane ride once. Woke up. Was there.
I think the train ride is pretty long too. Like they're on it for a long time. I don't know. They never really talk about how long it is, but it's.
I think England is that big.
Like when's the train leave the station?
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock.
I think. I don't know.
And they get there and it's nighttime, right?
Yeah.
I think it is 11 o'clock.
At least it was the first year, I think. But then the last year I don't know. Not important.
Doesn't
matter.
Long
train ride. Things happen. This guy's sleeping the whole time.
Yeah, and it's revealed that this person is R.J. Lupin. And they deduce, the trio, they deduce that he's the new teacher, the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Pretty quickly they figure that out because that's the only opening at the school. And why else would an adult be on the train? So they figure that out pretty early. And then they're just on the train for a while. Mm-hmm. And they get some snacks and they're talking about stuff. And R.J. Lupin never wakes up. Mm-hmm. And then eventually the train stops. Does anything happen before the train stops?
I think the power goes out. Oh, you mean like
before that incident?
I think they're just like talking.
I know
about
Draco
stuff.
Malfoy stops by with Crabbe and Goyle.
Yeah.
And they get scared off because there's a teacher in the compartment.
And then the power goes off, right?
Yeah. So the train slows down. They're like, oh, we must be getting close to Hogwarts. Mm-hmm. But then they're like, no, I don't think so. I think this is too early. So the train stops and then it goes dark in the train and it gets really cold. Mm-hmm. And they're super curious about what's going on. And then at the compartment door is this black cloaked, black hooded, really creepy, depressing feeling creature. Mm-hmm. And we learn that this is a Dementor of Azkaban. We learn that this is one of the guards of Azkaban.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit confused about that because they seem to be this like ghost-like creature or phantom-like creature, but then they're also described as the guards of Azkaban, and in which case they're like doing something good by trying to find this prisoner, but it's also like really scary and spooky. And then he goes down the train car and he stops at the compartment that the kids are at. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point here. And I think this is actually kind of debated in the books a little bit, is these Dementors are kind of scary and they affect you in different ways, right? Mm-hmm. So everyone you get really cold and you get really unhappy. You get really sad when they're around you. Like Ron explains it as, I had the feeling like I'd never be cheerful again.
Yeah, which is like, that's a big feeling. I mean, I think that's like a very poignant way to express depression. Like when I've had depressive episodes, like it's like, oh, I don't ever think I can be happy again. And that's a very different feeling from I'm unhappy right now, but it'll pass kind of thing.
Right.
And that's pretty deep for this, these 13-year-olds. Yeah, that was a very powerful line, I thought. Yeah. And I think and I hope that maybe that's like tied in with what the theme of this book is about. Like maybe it is about more like mental health or like madness or insanity, like we've been saying or whatever. But maybe there are some more shreds of like this humanity or this struggle in it.
Well, we'll keep going and figure it out. But
sorry, got a little serious there for a second.
Yeah, I mean that's great. And I think Dementors kind of pop up throughout this book, and we'll learn more about them. But I think in essence, that's kind of their purpose. That's why they exist, is because they guard this prison. And that is one of the ways that they affect these prisoners is by like you go to Azkaban and you don't want to be there because of these guards, because they affect you so much, because they drive you to madness eventually because of how they affect your emotions.
Yeah, right now they're just in a very strange category for me. I don't know where to place them. Like they're good guys because they're out looking for this prisoner. They're horrible because they're affecting people's mental health and well-being. Like I'm really not sure what's going on.
And I think that's okay for you to feel like that now, and probably throughout most of the book, because for most of this book, at least, they're described as kind of like a tool. They're a tool used by the ministry to guard a prison to kind of control criminals. And in this instance, they are out looking for Sirius Black, but different people feel differently about them. Like Molly Weasley, Mrs. Weasley, was telling Arthur Weasley in the previous chapter that she thought it was a good thing that Dementors were going to be allowed to guard the entrances to the castle, to Hogwarts. And Mr. Weasley said that Dumbledore would not allow them to go onto the grounds of Hogwarts at all, that he completely was against it because he feels very strongly that Dementors are terrible things that shouldn't be around kids and probably shouldn't exist.
So is there like some bigger metaphor here that we'll figure out as we go through the book?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of different conclusions to draw, and maybe something will stick out to you.
Okay.
But yeah, they're really interesting characters, interesting ideas. And like I said, they affect everyone differently. So they generally kind of make you depressed, make you sad, make you cold. But Harry was impacted. He actually passed out, right? So Harry, I think it talks about Harry hearing something, seeing kind of like a green light, and then hearing
like a rumble. Something.
Like a scream or something.
Oh, yeah. That was terrifying.
And then he passes out.
Right.
And then he wakes up.
And RJ is awake now too. And does like create some silver flame, something that like wards the Dementor off, which once again, if they're good guys, why do they have to be warded off like this? And kind of in the commotion of all of that, Harry's sneakoscope is reacting or lighting up or spinning or whatever it's doing. And I think one of the things that I didn't know while reading it was, is it because of this RJ guy or is it because of this Dementor? Or something else?
Good thought. Yeah.
So it's just kind of like all in the mix there.
Exactly.
Yeah. That was really terrifying. And then the train keeps going and then it's like 10 minutes and then they're at Hogwarts.
But something important happens on the train after that.
Oh, really?
Yes. When in the aftermath of this Dementor showing up, RJ Lupin gives Harry chocolate.
Yeah.
And he gives everyone in that compartment chocolate. And immediately upon eating it, Harry starts to feel better. He starts to kind of feel this warmth spread between his limbs and up to the tips of his fingers and his toes.
Yeah,
and
that
it
was
kind
nice.
of rejuvenates him and makes him feel really happy.
Yeah.
That's a nice little detail about how to kind of, at least in this world, ward off some of those bad thoughts and bad feelings.
Yeah, magical chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they get to Hogwarts.
Yeah, and I think before this chapter ends, they go up to Madame Pomfrey, because the kids don't attend the sorting ceremony.
Well, they're late because McGonagall's talking to them.
Yeah, McGonagall's, and then they go to see the doctor because Harry passed out. They go to Madame Pomfrey, and Madame Pomfrey gives them chocolate again, or at least Harry chocolate, and then she like applauds Professor Lupin because he actually knew what to do in that situation. Like he gave chocolate to the kids and she was like, finally, we have a defense against the dark arts teacher that knows what they're doing.
Yeah. I was like, I feel like that's foreshadowing.
Okay, and then we get to chapter 6, which is called Talons and Tea Leaves.
Cool name for a chapter.
Which is when I really This is when the divination class comes in, and I really should have told you that divination class was a thing.
Yeah, that would have been helpful.
Sorry.
That's okay. I still did pretty good, I have to say. So, is divination first, or is...
I think divination is first, actually. Yeah, divination comes first. So, because I think it ends with care of magical creatures. So divination is first, but they meet they meet Sir Cadogan. Do you remember Sir Cadogan?
No.
From this chapter? They mention him very briefly, and the reason that I put him in is because he comes up later. This is the chapter where they introduce you to him.
Right.
But he's a more important character later. But he's a portrait. He's somebody in a portrait.
Oh, okay.
He's like a knight.
He's not wearing a cardigan?
He's not wearing a cardigan. He's wearing like a full knight outfit, like armor and stuff.
He should have been on the night bus.
I know.
They misplaced him. Also, I was thinking about how I thought he was Sir Cardigan, and then it reminded me when I thought it was Nicholas Flamel.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I think I just read everything through the eyes of what I think they're wearing.
Yeah, that checks out for you. That checks out. So yeah, we briefly meet Sir Cadogan because I think they're lost. They're looking for the divination classroom. The divination classroom's in a tower. It's one of the towers of the castle, and they can't find it. It's a little tricky to get to, and so they look for help, and Sir Cadogan points them in the right direction after challenging them to a duel, which is like he's kind of he plays this really brave, kind of overzealous knight who is always challenging people to duels. So he's introduced there. He comes back later.
Okay.
But you're right. I think they go to divination class, which is a new class.
Yeah.
And the professor is Miss Trelawney. And the reason that you didn't guess this is because I didn't tell you about divination class, but you thought Trelawney was the character of magical creatures class.
Yeah.
Which is a fair thought. But I think you probably would have made the connection between her and divination if I had told you about divination.
Maybe. She's a cool character.
You like her?
I liked the description of her. I thought that she was an interestingly thought out character of this like kind of woo-woo elderly lady type. They talk about like I kind of picture her kind of like a fairy. Like she's very small, but her like eyes and her glasses are very big. Mm-hmm. She's not actually a fairy though, is she?
No, she's just a normal person.
She's just a normal person. And she's wearing all these beads. I don't know. I felt like I got a really clear picture of her from the description, which isn't always the case with some character descriptions. I just thought she seemed very complete.
Yeah, it's definitely a different type of character than we've had. I agree with you. I think she's well thought out. She's well described, and she's an interesting character. And she's not really. I don't know if she's like a character that you're supposed to love or you're supposed to hate. Mm-hmm. Maybe she's kind of right in the middle there. But yeah, she's an interesting character for sure. But someone doesn't get along with her too well, and that's Hermione.
Yeah, I was like, I think they butt heads a little bit because this divination class is more about intuition and sensing and things like that. And Hermione's so book smart, right?
Right.
She wants to know what her work is, what her homework is, get good grades. But this is a much more feelings-oriented class.
And doesn't Trelawney just kind of come right out and say that Hermione doesn't have the gift and like won't be a good...
I think it's after something happens, but she's kind of like, I don't really sense it in you after something happens.
Yeah. Anyway, so they don't get along too well right off the bat.
Right, which probably makes Hermione really uncomfortable because she's
Hermione does well in everything.
In all her classes, all her 10 classes that she has to be at the same time.
Yeah. So while they're in divination class, they read tea leaves. Mm-hmm. And that's where the tea leaves come in. And so Ron is doing it with Harry, and they drink the tea and they leave the dregs of the tea. They kind of swish it around, and then they're supposed to look in and see what is depicted. Like
right.
what
They
image.
have like a guidebook. They're kind of following along with this guide. And it's like, if you see an acorn, look at this. Like, it reminds me of like a dream journal kind of.
You nailed it, by the way, in your prediction. Like, you got it spot on, except for the fact that
they don't animate.
move, which would have been really cool. That would have been super cool, but they don't. But that's what they're doing, and they're like struggling to see anything. And then Trelawney comes up to Harry and looks in, and she sees the Grim.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, this is terrible."
Which I think is what's the Grim described as? You remember?
Let me see. Okay, the Grim, my dear, the Grim, cried Professor Trelawney, who looked shocked that Harry hadn't understood. The giant spectral dog that haunts churchyards. My dear boy, it's an omen, the worst omen of death.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Death
dog.
omen.
There's a dog theme going on. We got Sirius
theme.
Black. We got this creature with this glowing eyes. We have the Grim.
Dog theme.
Dog theme.
Yeah. So she basically tells Harry that he's going to die. And then they leave Divination. They go to Transfiguration. Everyone's kind of sad because...
Well, she said someone... She didn't say Harry was going to die. She said someone is going to die.
Well, he had a death omen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, she said someone in this class or someone in Hogwarts is going to die by spring or something.
So they go to Transfiguration. They're all kind of sad because Trelawney made them all sad. And...
freaked them out.
Yeah.
And Mrs. McGonagall is like, pish posh.
Yeah.
She says that every year.
Yeah. She's
don't worry about it.
Every year she says one student's going to die.
Oh, gosh.
And she tells everyone just to chill out and not worry about it. That's pretty much
I don't know who
that.
to believe.
Who to believe. And then eventually they go to Care of Magical Creatures class, which is another new class.
Yeah.
And this is taught by Hagrid.
I'm so excited that Hagrid is teaching this class. I said on the prediction that I thought he would be like the teacher's assistant, but he's the actual professor, and that's so cool.
Yeah.
What a glow up.
I know. That's super great. And for their first class, he takes them kind of into the outskirts of the Forbidden Forest and brings out these really cool creatures called hippogriffs. Brings out like a bunch of them.
They're outside? I thought they were inside for some reason.
No, they're outside.
I thought he was bringing them into like the Great Hall.
No,
okay.
They're outside.
Okay.
But he brings out these hippogriffs, which are a combination of two creatures. They are half eagle. We looked this up the other day because we were confused. They're half eagle and half horse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what a hippogriff is. And you thought, based on their name, you thought they were hawks, which I thought was a cool idea. So you're like halfway there.
For not having all the information, I did a pretty good job.
You did a pretty damn good job. And this was a tough section to predict. You did a really good job. So these hippogriffs come out, and Hagrid's just like super excited to show everyone because he really likes.
Wait, does the monster book happen first?
Oh yeah, he tells them that it was a joke.
Well, he's like, didn't you stroke it?
Yeah. You're supposed to stroke the spine.
He's like, I thought everybody would have figured that out. And they're all like, no, weirdo. And then the hippogriffs come out.
And he tells them that you have to respect the hippogriff. You need to bow to the hippogriff and wait for it to bow back. And if it doesn't bow back off because it's dangerous. And so Harry comes forward, or Harry involuntarily volunteers himself to approach it, and he bows, and the hippogriff bows, and he gets on and he rides around for a while.
But it's a little tense, like we're not quite sure if the hippogriff is going to bow or not, and then he does. And then Malfoy's like, I can do this.
Do you remember the name of the hippogriff that Harry rides around on?
Buckbeak.
Yeah, Buckbeak. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Malfoy is like, that's easy. And he runs up and he gets attacked.
Yeah.
Because he didn't follow the rules. Because he's an idiot.
Well, he bowed.
He bowed, but the hippogriff did not bow back.
He was like, I don't like your attitude.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
And he like scratches his arm or something.
Yeah. And then Malfoy's a big baby about it. After he's been like super mean to Harry for passing out and whatever, he like gets a little scratched and like I feel like he like acts like he's dying.
Yeah. He plays it out. He plays it out. He wants to milk it for all it's worth. He's like, I'm calling my father. He wants to get Hagrid fired. Like he hates Hagrid and he wants to get Hagrid fired. And so he complains about it, even though it's just like a little scratch on his arm and he gets it fixed instantly. But he's...
And Harry calls him out. Harry's like, I had no bones last year and Madame Pomfrey like fixed me up. Like Malfoy's going to be fine, but he's like whining about it. It's always the people with the biggest talk that are like actually really weak.
For sure.
Okay, so then the kids visit Hagrid and he's like drunk. Because he's upset that he let that happen. Like he's like, I shouldn't have started with the hippogriffs. That was too advanced. And
he's worried he's going to get fired.
Yeah,
I would be too. If I injured a student in that way, like he didn't injure the student, but if I had led to the circumstance that injured a student in any way, I would be very upset.
All right, that was the end.
Yep, end of chapter 6. Okay, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So we were talking about the Dementors and we were talking about chocolate and how chocolate kind of brings people out of their sadness or out of their depressive state when the Dementors have affected them.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, when you get sad or a little depressed, what's your chocolate? What helps you kind of get out of that funk?
Yeah, because it's not chocolate for me or for you.
We're not huge fans of chocolate. We don't have sweet tooths.
Yeah, just fine. Yeah, actually I do have something, but I have a story that goes with it.
Okay.
And you might know this story, but I don't think you know how I'm going to relate it to this. Okay, so a few years ago, it was before we met, it was like Christmas, I'm pretty sure it was Christmas 2020 because it was like the pandemic and like no one was traveling and I wasn't going home for Christmas. So I was like in LA by myself with my dog, Theo, for Christmas and decided for Christmas Day, we were going to go on this big hike. Like that was like our thing. We would like plan big hikes, take little road trips to do cool hikes. And so that's what I was going to do for Christmas. And it had rained in LA the day before. Just like, okay, like no big deal. Didn't think anything of it. So we start going on this hike and we start going like up and up and up in altitude. Like it was like an hour away. And we were like driving up this mountain, which I did not anticipate. And I start seeing all this snow on the ground. And I'm like, what? Like, it's LA. Like, it doesn't snow in LA, but we were just so high up in altitude. Anyway, finally we get to this hike and it's covered in snow and ice. And like, we had a super difficult time. Like, I was not prepared for snow and ice. I was not dressed appropriately for snow and ice. And then we were like kept on like hiking and climbing up and everything was super icy. And I'd like get to the top of a ridge and I'd be like, I don't know how I'm going to get down this. Like it's covered in ice. Like I could barely stay on my feet, And then we get lost at some point. Like it was supposed to be this loop and like it was like lost and alone on Christmas with my dog and I was freezing and my phone was like out of range or whatever. Like I couldn't just like look up a map or something. And I just distinctly remember having the thought that it's all going to be okay because I have soup at home. Soup. I had like some homemade soup I'd made the day before or something. And I just kept on thinking about that warm, cozy feeling when like the soup warms you from like the inside out. And that helped me get through that really difficult, kind of scary hike.
Soup is magical.
Soup is really
soup
magical.
Does wonderful things.
Yeah. Love soup.
Nice.
Oh, what about you? What's your chocolate? Because I also know it's not chocolate.
Yeah,
for you?
I've been thinking about this, and I think for me, I think sometimes when I feel sad or a little depressed, I like to sit in that feeling for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure why, but sometimes, just kind of need to experience that emotion. But also, I really like to listen to music to help me when I'm when I'm experiencing those things. Because I think when I listen to really good music, there's kind of like an emotional journey that I go on, and that can bring me out of whatever funk I'm in like a really beautiful way. And I
Mm-hmm.
like that. But also sometimes when I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed or sad, I like to go on a run or a hike
Mm-hmm.
too, or a run, and just run for a while. And
Mm-hmm.
I can work through those thoughts or completely ignore them and focus on my run.
Mm. Yeah. I like what you're describing because I know you, and it's not like a wallowing. It's just a allowing yourself to move through the emotion instead of um getting overwhelmed by
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And so you have like certain like albums or something that like you'll listen to that'll help you kind of like go through it, or
I like
it
to
just
listen
depends.
to it depends.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like to listen to live performances a lot when
Oh,
I'm kind of
okay.
in those moods. I
Interesting.
Because when I listen to a live performance of like a really talented musician, someone that's really into the music,
Mm-hmm.
it's this whole other level of kind of emotional connection with the music because you
Mm-hmm.
can actually hear them.
It's a little more human, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
It's that gets me a little bit more. So I go through like these live sets that I really like to listen to.
Cool.
But
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Okay, you ready for predictions?
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you that are new, Becky is going to make predictions for the next 3 chapters of the book, which are chapters 7, 8, and 9. I'm going to give her some information to help her make those predictions. I'm going to tell her the names of those 3 chapters. I'm going to tell her the names of the major characters within those chapters. And I'm going to tell her the names of the major locations within those chapters. And I'm also going to tell her some important little tidbits of information or important little curios, either information to have or maybe information about a specific object or something in those chapters. That's just to help her give a little bit more structure as she makes her prediction. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, chapter 7 is called The Boggart in the Wardrobe. Chapter 8 is called Flight of the Fat Lady. And chapter 9 is called Grim Defeat. And the major characters in these chapters are Draco Malfoy, Professor Snape, Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, Hermione Granger, Professor Lupin, a Boggart, Crookshanks the cat, Scabbers the rat, the Fat Lady, Peeves, Sirius Black, Sir Cadogan, Oliver Wood, and a bunch of Dementors. The major locations within these chapters are Potions class, Defense Against the Dark Arts class, Lupin's office, the Gryffindor common room, and the Gryffindor common room's entranceway specifically, the Great Hall, and the Quidditch pitch. And then the interesting curios or interesting tidbits are the Fat Lady's portrait and the Grim. That's it.
Okay. I really don't think I know what's going on in these chapters, but I'm going to give it a shot. Chapter 7, we have the Bogart. Is that how you say it?
I think it's Boggart.
Bogart.
Boggart.
Like Bogart, like Humphrey. The Bogart in the wardrobe. And okay, I have to complain like just a tiny bit real quick because while I was reading this, like as I finished chapter 6 in the book, there's these little illustrations at the beginning of each chapter. I would have no idea what a Bogart was, but because of this little picture, it's like a little bit of a spoiler. And this has happened a few times with like the Aunt Marge chapter and some other things. But anyway, it looks from this picture like the Bogart is a mummy of some sort. So this mummy comes out of a wardrobe. Where the wardrobe is, I don't know. Maybe it's in like the Gryffindor, like Ron and Harry's room. Maybe they have a wardrobe. Why are wardrobes like such a thing in literature?
They're mysterious.
I guess.
Anything could be in there.
Anything. There's like, is it more of like a British thing or is it just like an outdated thing? Like we don't really have wardrobes anymore. Did they not have closets back?
I don't know. Maybe it's a British thing.
Mm.
You don't, it's not much you hear about them in American literature.
I don't really know, but this Bogart comes out. He's very scary. He gives Harry and Ron a good scare. That happens. Maybe he like has some kind of like message or code for them. I don't know.
Wait a minute. So they're just like happened to come across a wardrobe?
I said it was in their dorm room.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there. It's been there the whole time, right?
Yeah. Okay. And then just a mummy comes out of it and scares them.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Sure. Yeah. And then they go to potions class with Snape, and I feel like they have to reestablish this Snape hates Harry thing that's been going on for a while. The new Dada teacher is there. And they have to go to this new Dada class. And I feel like, based on what they're setting up, that this Lupin guy comes across as like very competent and like a very good teacher. And Hermione's probably excited because she's so studious, you know? Okay, so that wasn't really that helpful. I don't know what happens in that chapter. So then we have Flight of the Fat Lady. And the Fat Lady is the woman in the picture that's like the secret passage to Gryffindor, right?
Yeah, it's like the entrance to the Gryffindor common room.
But then we also have this character, Sir Cadogan, who's also in a painting. So I'm going to guess that they run off together. They leave their paintings. They're gone. She gone with the knight. And then nobody can get into Gryffindor anymore because they can't give the password to her. And that causes some chaos. And then McGonagall brings everyone into the Great Hall to like talk about what's going on. There's like chaos. There's mummies. There's stuff, and then Crookshanks and Scabbers are going to cause a big ruckus in the Great Hall. And Peeves is back. Maybe Peeves is all peeved because of the chaos. Things start going crazy. The Dementors are kind of like screwing with everyone's like sense of, I don't know, safety, even though they're there to protect them. I'm sure they're like very spooky and weird. Everyone feels weird that they're just like around. I think they're all outside, but I don't know. It's spooky. Grim Defeat. It looks kind of like they have to do a Quidditch match again. So I'm going to guess that there's like this big match and it's going to be between Gryffindor and Slytherin so that Harry and Malfoy can reestablish their rivalry. And it's going to be all intense and crazy. And then it's going to get stopped when Sirius Black shows up. Yeah. And then Dementors are all crazy and then they have to stop the game. It is a grim defeat. This one was really hard. I really don't know what they're setting up or what's happening yet.
Maybe everything will become clear soon.
Yeah, I hope so.
And this will be easier.
Yeah, maybe. Let's hope so.
Let's hope so. Because this is tough.
Yeah, it's really tough.
Thank you so much for those predictions, Becki. We are now going to go and read those chapters, and we'll be back next week to talk about them and then make predictions for the next 3 chapters after that. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate everyone tuning in. We have a website. It's called mugglesguide.com. Go there to check out all of the episodes that we've put out, along with some other interesting tidbits of information. I'm thinking of actually putting all of Becki's predictions from the first season and second season and third season up there as little blog posts so we can kind of see how they evolve over time, which I thought might be a fun idea. We also have an Instagram at Muggles Guide. We have a Twitter account at Muggles Guide Podcast.
Strike that.
Reverse it again. Okay, I keep doing that. Follow us there, and we would love it if you would rate our podcast. Give us like 5 stars or 4 stars or however many stars you think it deserves.
5, please.
And tell your friends and family about us. Thank you so much, and we will catch you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.